The Celtics took Game 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals in Boston in a game where their best player shot just 37% from the field. Boston is actually 5-0 in this year's playoffs in games where Tatum shoots below 40%, and in Game 1, it was the size and versatility of Boston's starting five that propelled them to such a strong start. It was also the long-awaited return of the unicorn Kristaps Porzingis, whose unique 7'3" frame posed serious problems for Dallas's offense and defense. From the moment he checked into the game, Boston was looking to get him the ball at the high post for him to attack a mismatch. And as we've mentioned before, KP is just too tall for anyone Dallas puts in front of him, so on plays where he doesn't get a clean look off, they usually result in free throws. Dallas was willing to concede the switch on these pick and roll actions, so it made it easy for Boston to get into their offense quickly with plenty of time on the shot clock for him to go to work. You can really see this on a play like this one, where he's guarded by Jaden Hardy and patiently waits to make his move by simply rising over the top. Even in transition, when KP is cross-matched onto a smaller guard, this simplifies the Celtics' offense, notice the excellent spacing here, and he rises over the top for another bucket. Much has been said about how efficient the Porzingis post-up has been this season, but the numbers don't lie. 1.30 points per possession on his post-ups in the regular season is video game-like efficiency, and in a matchup like this, where Dallas lacks the size to counter, these post-ups will likely become more of a staple as the series progresses. Fatigue was obviously a factor for KP, as this was his first game back in over a month, but watching him, it was evident that his quickness off the dribble was also a huge problem for Dallas's bigs to contain. But of course, what makes Porzingis a unicorn is his ability to do all of this while being a long-range sniper that can launch threes from 30 feet. And in transition, with the Mavericks bigs frantically trying to get back to protect the paint, that leaves KP open to do this. Now, the Celtics' shot making in the first half of Game 1 was absolutely insane. They made 40% of their threes in the first half while attempting twice as many as Dallas. This should come as no surprise, as the Celtics led the league in three-point attempts by a wide margin, and this is Joe Mazzulla's philosophy. The drive and kick game sets up the outside shooting. And this brings us to the second and ultimately most important facet of the Celtics offense in this game, and likely the remainder of the series, the isolation game. Boston's goal was to get a switch onto either Lively or Luka in hopes of getting past them and collapsing the defense to get open threes. This is why generating a paint touch on these possessions is so important, because that is what gets the Mavericks defense in rotation and leads to wide open looks. Now, midway through the game, the Mavericks went on a huge run to cut a 29-point lead down to 8, and it was because they did a good job staying in front of Tatum and Brown and closing out to the shooters. They also implemented a zone, and it will be interesting to see if Dallas goes back to that more often in Game 2. And with the 3-point shooting variance in full effect, this briefly turned the tide of the game. This is also a good reminder of how quickly things can change during a 5-minute stretch of good or bad shooting. Now, the Celtics turned it up late in the third, thanks largely to Jaylen Brown, who, if it wasn't apparent last night, made tremendous strides as both a ball handler to attack the Mavs defenders in space. This is insane ball handling control with his left to keep his dribble alive, get past Luka, and draw the foul at the rim. Here's another play where Brown receives a DHO with his left hand and spins back right for the easy layup. And I think this play really shows the improved playmaking from Brown. The handle to get past Kleber forces Gafford to rotate over, and he throws a beautiful pass to the corner for 3. If Boston's two stars, Tatum and Brown, can continue to get past Dallas's defensive weak points this easily, I'm not sure what Jason Kidd and the Mavs will be able to do. Of course, the biggest problem the Mavericks will have to figure out in Game 2 is how to utilize Gafford and Lively in the pick and roll game. The Celtics started this game with Brown on Luka and Tatum on Gafford. This allows for them to switch these actions seamlessly and take away the lob pass that wreaked havoc on the Timberwolves in the previous series. This strategy worked pretty well. Obviously, Luka still put up great scoring numbers, but the Celtics held him to only 1 assist in this game, and it still prevented Dallas's role players from getting in much of a rhythm. You can see here, when the Mavericks bring Lively up to set the screen, Boston just switches, so Luka calls up PJ Washington to get KP in the action, and even though Luka splits the defense, it still takes an insane hanging layup to get a clean shot up. Boston put Porzingis on a non-shooter like Derrick Jones Jr. or PJ Washington so he can stay closer to the basket to help out on Luka and Kyrie's drives. Jones and Washington are not good shooters above the break, so Boston will live with these shots as long as the lob pass is taken away. So, Dallas has Jones set the screen to get Porzingis in the action, but again, he's not a lob threat in these spots, and KP can hover in the paint and use his length to alter shots. Porzingis finished the game with 3 blocks, and he made incredible plays that really highlight how his length really bothered Dallas's drives. He makes an incredible recovery to not only contest Kyrie's drive, but turn around and block Jones's dunk at the rim. KP's ridiculous wingspan makes it possible for him to contest shots even while in drop coverage. With Porzingis on a non-shooter and one of the Celtics' wings on Lively, that means the paint is also clogged and it forces Luka to score in single coverage. Boston's help defense behind the play was tremendous in this game because they were willing to concede open threes to non-shooters to prioritize Dallas's short roll offense. You can see that on a play like this one, where Derrick Jones goes to set a screen for Luka, and when he rolls to the basket and Luka throws a lob, it's actually under the rim, so Jaylen Brown can rotate over and easily block it, and then what a recovery to block him again. Here's another play where Kristaps Porzingis is all the way in the paint helping out on Luka's drive, and PJ Washington has enough space to write an entire novel, but these are above the break threes that Boston will live with. This is a huge reason why Luka Doncic only finished with 1 assist in this entire game. So moving forward, the biggest question will be how Dallas can unlock the lob threat and force Boston to make tougher decisions. There are certainly a few possibilities, one of which being a double drag, which is essentially staggered screens, which brings multiple Boston defenders away from the basket, or something like a stack pick and roll where a shooter sets a back screen on what would be a big man like Dereck Lively in these spots, and it can cause confusion and unlock some lob passes. But this is all going to be very tough because Boston, as we've mentioned before, has size and length to switch a lot of options. If they can't figure out something to unlock this game, Luka and Kyrie will have to be spectacular, which they are certainly capable of doing. But last night, it was the return of Porzingis and the length of the Boston Celtics that stole the show in Game 1. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it to the end, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. If you are interested in WNBA content, check out my previous video breaking down the Fever offense. I have more content in that department once the finals is over. Also, be sure to give me a follow on Twitter. It'll be linked in the description box below, and you can stay up to date on content that I post throughout the week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.